So I already talked about the movies that surprised me, the movies that I was not looking forward to or had no idea what they were about, and then I watched them and they completely surprised me and I had a good time with them. Now let's talk about the opposite, the movies that I was looking forward to for various reasons, but wound up very disappointed by. These were movies I was looking forward to either because the premise sounded interesting, or the cast and crew sounded interesting, or the trailer was really good, or I it's just so many things that could have made these movies work, and yet the movies that I saw didn't. So this is going to be kind of a long list because unfortunately I found out that I had more disappointments than surprises. Now I'm going to go through some of these very quick. Some of these, I think I reviewed all these movies actually, unlike the surprises list, unfortunately, but I will go through them as quickly as I can just to get them out of the way. And so let's start off with some dishonorable mentions, including Wicked for Good. Now, I thought this movie was at least fine when I was watching it, but the more I thought of it, the more I kind of disliked it. Like, there were character aspects that didn't really work for me. Even though I do like the design of the movie, I do like some of the performances and such, and some of the musical numbers are pretty good. I can definitely see why some people didn't think this movie was a good idea, because a lot of people don't really like the second part of Wicked, and now a movie that's basically all the second part of Wicked, it doesn't quite work as well. The Conjuring Last Rites. I can't really be surprised at this movie because Michael Chavez is not really a great director in my opinion. I haven't liked any of his Conjuring movies, and this movie just did not help. It wasn't that scary. It was a little convoluted at times. The demon literally throws people, and I just thought it was absolutely hilarious to me. I was not scared while watching this movie, and I just missed the James Wan days. Jurassic World Dominion. Some people say that the first movies in the Jurassic Park series are the best. Like Jurassic Park 1, obviously top tier. Jurassic World is probably the best of the Jurassic World series so far, and Jurassic World Dominion is supposed to start a brand new franchise. Oh boy, this movie is pretty bad. This movie is very forgettable. The movie is about how people are just tired of dinosaurs and they go off and try to find cures for medicine and such, and just it's so stupid. Like, they have moments in this movie that don't make sense. Like, there's a moment where the characters stop and gaze at the dinosaurs, and it's like, you don't see this every day. Except they literally live in a world now where they see this every day, and it makes no sense. I was bored watching this movie. This is a franchise that should have gone extinct a long time ago. How to Train Your Dragon. Again, not really that big of a surprise because I saw the trailer and I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to like this movie. This movie, I'm going to mention another live action remake in this video, but it does one of the things I don't like about live action remakes is that when they just copy and paste. This movie just copies and pastes from the original movie quite a bit, and is very distracting, is very disappointing. And even though the world itself looks fine, the visuals look okay, and the performances are okay, I just felt like I was just watching the same movie again, just not nearly as good as the first time. Karate Kid Legends. This movie had a pretty interesting hook at the beginning when it's basically about the kid who's kind of training an adult now. It's like, okay, that's actually kind of a unique twist. And then the movie turns into another Karate Kid movie where they bring in Jackie Chan's character, they bring in Ralph Macchio's character, and it doesn't really work out as well as it should. I felt like this movie had a lot of energy at first, and then it just lost it. The Alto Knights. Barry Levinson is a very unique director. He was very prolific in the 80s and such with movies like Rain Man and Good Morning Vietnam, and he's done not a whole lot since. This is like a big comeback. Robert De Niro playing two roles in another gangster movie. This should have been amazing. Unfortunately, it's very dull and very boring. I don't remember much from this movie. I just remember I was bored watching it and I remember it tanked at the box office. It's kind of a letdown. Not just kind of, it is a letdown. The Roses, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman as the Roses, a couple going through a very bitter divorce. This movie should have been fun. This movie should have been funny. This movie should have been dark. This movie is okay. Like, it has moments where it's actually kind of funny, but a lot of the stuff that they fight over, you kind of see in the last act, or not even just the last act, like in the last 15 minutes of the movie, and it just felt like it was just kind of a waste of talent and time. Caught Stealing. This is a movie that a lot of people seem to enjoy. Personally, I thought it was a little disappointing because it is so unlike anything Darren Aronofsky has directed, and it's just so strange to me that his strangest movie is his most normal movie. That is weird to me. But the performances are at least okay. Like, Austin Butler I thought was okay, Bad Bunny was okay, Regina King is okay, but everyone else I just thought was just fine. This is a movie that I felt like could have worked if it was literally in any other hands, but I was just not as impressed as I should be. A big, bold, beautiful journey, or as I like to call it, a bland, boring Burger King ad. Yeah, this movie has a very dumb moment early on where Margot Robbie literally says, I can eat an American cheeseburger every day. Oh boy. This is a movie where literally everyone involved should have known better. The director, Colin Farrell, Margot Robbie, everyone should have known better. It was a boring, bland mess of a movie that I was just not emotionally invested in. The Amateur, a movie that is very amateurish. Despite Rami Malek giving a solid performance, this movie felt like a very first. It felt like someone's first feature, even though it isn't someone's first feature. It felt like a very straightforward thriller with no twists, no turns, nothing. I would have at least been okay if they had a few twists in there that were obvious, but this movie doesn't even try half the time. And the last honorable mention is going to be 28 Years Later. I didn't hate this movie as much as everyone else, but I definitely was disappointed when that first trailer dropped. Like, no, I was excited when that first trailer dropped, and I was disappointed when I saw the movie and realized it didn't have the same energy. And when I saw it, I actually watched it again to kind of see if my thoughts had changed on it. And I can definitely see like what they're going for. I thought the lead actor was actually very good. I thought there were definitely some brutal kills in this movie, but I definitely felt like this movie was just not what I was expecting. I'm hearing really good things about the Bone Temple that's coming out later this month, but we'll see. So let's get into my actual top 10 biggest disappointments of 2025. At number 10 is Eddington. Now, like I said with 28 Years Later, I gave that movie a second chance. Of all the movies on my top 10 list, this is probably the only one I would give a second chance to. Because I talked to a few people who said they did like it for various reasons and such, and I'm like, okay, maybe if I watch it from that angle, I can actually enjoy the movie a little bit more. But I've been a fan of Ari Aster's work since the beginning, and this movie just felt very unfocused, very uneven. And some people said that's kind of the point, but I'm sorry, like, I don't understand where Joaquin Phoenix's character is coming from half the time. It's like, does he get involved with the conspiracies? Does he hate the conspiracies? It doesn't really make sense. Pedro Pascal I thought was pretty good. I thought Emma Stone and Austin Butler were kind of wasted in this movie. Also, I don't really like how they handled the pandemic, also protests of 2020. I felt like they didn't really say anything new or interesting or insightful and such. I felt like it was just kind of something where it's like, I heard all this stuff back when it was actually happening, 5 years ago. And this movie just felt like it was just all over the place by the end. And by the end, I was like, well, that was kind of a letdown. At number 9, The Woman in the Yard. This movie, again, kind of like 28 Years Later, wasn't really on my radar until I saw that first teaser trailer where all she says is, today's the day. Why is she there? Why is today the day? I don't know, but that trailer had me hooked. And then they showed another trailer, which kind of ruined a lot of the surprises. And then I saw the movie, which got worse as it went along. This movie, I just feel bad for Danielle Deadwyler. She was snubbed for an Oscar for her performance in Till, which is a great performance. And in this movie, she plays a grieving mom, and the movie itself just becomes like an A24 movie in the worst possible way. Like, I like A24 movies, but this movie felt like it was trying to be an A24 movie, but wasn't. The middle act just drags, the last act makes no sense, and I just felt like I just lost all interest after the first act. This movie just got worse and worse as it went along, and that first teaser, it hooked me, but everything after that, even the second trailer, lost me. At number 8, Love Hurts. Oh, Ke Huy Quan, I feel bad about this. I thought you were great in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm really happy about you. I'm really happy to see you in an interview and such. I love your story. I get excited every time I see you in a movie. Except if it's Love Hurts. This movie was, I was hoping was going to be a lot of fun. Again, I like Ke Huy Quan. I like the production company that made it, 87 North. If you don't know, that's David Leitch's company that makes a lot of the John Wick movies. Also made Violent Night, Nobody, Bullet Train and such. So I was hoping this movie was going to be a fun time, but the movie itself is just very forgettable. It was very bland. It wasn't very funny. It wasn't very fun even. Ariana DeBose is just horribly miscast in this movie. Again, I feel bad for her because she is an Oscar winner and she started nothing but garbage since then. Like this and Argyle and Craven the Hunter and Wish. I just feel bad for her. And this movie just felt like it was very forgettable. It was also only 80 minutes, so it barely qualified as a feature film. But wow, what a waste of time. What a waste of talent. There was a funny character, I remember. I forgot exactly what his shtick was, but I remember one character kind of made me laugh, but it wasn't the two leads. And that's very disappointing. I can't even remember. That's how forgettable this movie is. At number 7 is Megan 2.0. I enjoyed the first Megan movie quite a bit. It wasn't taking itself seriously. It was campy enough. This movie, it's either too campy or not campy enough. And I felt like it was just all over the place. The only character who was even redeemable or even remotely human was ironically Megan herself. I did not care for this movie. I thought it wasn't fun. It was just kind of a dull, it dragged on way too long. It was 2 hours long, and I just felt like it just lost all the fun that the first Megan had. At number 6 is Lilo and Stitch. This is the other live action remake that is on this list. And there's no Snow White on this list because I was not looking forward to that movie to begin with. Lilo and Stitch, I had little hope for because you had people who were working on the original Lilo and Stitch involved with this movie. It seemed like it was actually going to be one of the better Disney live action remakes. And I said this before, I just lost all hope in the Disney live action remakes because they keep making the same mistakes, keeping things that don't need to be kept, changing things that didn't need to be changed, just missing the point of the original, and just, yeah. And Lilo and Stitch, oh, that movie made me mad. Aside from Stitch, hardly anything else in this movie worked. I didn't really like how the characters are changed in this movie. I didn't like the scenes that they cut from this movie, particularly the fact that the ugly duckling scene has been cut from this movie. And the end, Jumba is the villain and such, which I absolutely hated. And also the ending is just way too convoluted and kind of ridiculous about how Nani is basically away at school, but she uses Stitch's teleporter to come back to Hawaii every once in a while to see Lilo and such. I thought it was really dumb. And I thought like it was just absolutely insane and kind of insulting to the original movie. This is probably the one Disney live action remake where I felt the most insulted by. Not the worst of the remakes, but the most insulted by, which is very fascinating. At number 5, Captain America Brave New World. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad for Marvel this year, I guess, but the first one, yeah, it was just kind of a very boring movie in my opinion. There are some action sequences that are pretty cool, but everything in between is just kind of bland and boring. The CGI on Red Hulk is atrocious. It felt like a movie that clearly wanted to be Captain America the Winter Soldier, but just wasn't. At number 4, Wolfman. I thought this movie was going to be really cool because Leigh Whannell directed The Invisible Man, a movie that I actually really liked. And when I heard he was doing this movie, it sounded really cool. He was going to take on another Universal monster movie. And unfortunately, the movie just drops the ball completely. This movie just felt like it had nowhere to go. The movie does have an interesting idea where it does take place all in one night, but I just kind of lost it by the end of the movie and I just didn't care anymore. The performances were okay, but you don't really get to see the Wolfman too much, unfortunately. At number 3 is Happy Gilmore 2. This movie kind of made me mad. And I actually do enjoy the first Happy Gilmore movie quite a bit. I think it's silly. I think it's just the right amount of stupid, in my opinion. I have a good time watching that movie. Happy Gilmore 2 I was nervous about, and when I watched the movie, all my fears were realized. This movie not only negates the purpose of the first Happy Gilmore movie within the first 10 minutes, but it makes Happy a very sad and angry alcoholic, which is just not funny and just so depressing. And also, the jokes in this movie are just bland, stupid, unfunny. You have a lot of celebrity cameos. Some of them don't even make sense half the time. And also, it's just not as interesting. The only people who actually surprised me in this movie were, one, Bad Bunny, surprisingly. Weird. I'm not the biggest Bad Bunny fan. I don't really listen to his music and such. And I didn't like his SNL episode earlier this year. Last year, I should say. But he was actually really funny. Travis Kelce's cameo, that worked. Christopher McDonald again as Shooter McGavin. Okay, he was still, okay, it wasn't as good as the first movie, but at least I loved seeing Shooter McGavin again. But this movie also relies heavily on the original movie so much that they just literally use clips from that movie. And to me, it was just lazy. This movie was just my fear of like, when they try to reboot these comedies again with new sequels and such, like this movie was kind of like Zoolander 2 and Dumb and Dumber 2, where it's like they clearly did not need a sequel and it just wasn't as fun. And it also kind of baffles me that the critics actually like this movie more than the first Happy Gilmore, which I'm like, what? What are these people smoking? Like, if you see my reviews, usually I tend to agree with critics more often, but this is the one time where I'm like, what are these critics thinking? Because man, this movie is stupid. And I hated it. At number 2, Him. This movie had so much potential. You had Jordan Peele producing this movie. He did not direct this movie, as some people say. It had a really cool idea. Like, what if you took football and kind of made a horror movie out of it? Someone trying to be the best of the best, trying to be the GOAT, and it winds up being horrifying. It winds up being disturbing and such. This movie should have worked. And yet, it drops the ball at every chance it got. It fumbled completely. This movie does not have an interesting lead. Marlon Wayans is fine in the movie. Julia Fox is okay, but it has so many ideas that all of them wind up being wasted in this movie. It is also not very subtle about what it's trying to say at times. It's just so eye-rollingly bad at times. And I was just baffled watching this movie. I'm like, I'm surprised anyone was okay with the choices that were made in this movie. And it's just like, I really need Jordan Peele to direct a movie again, because clearly this is a movie that wants to be a Jordan Peele movie, but isn't. And it just, again, it fumbled completely. But my number one biggest disappointment of 2025 was The Running Man. Now, I will say, The Running Man is not even the worst movie on this list. The reason why it's number one is because Edgar Wright is one of my favorite directors working today, and I heard he was making this movie, and I was very excited. But the movie itself, it lost me completely. The first act is kind of just setup, it's kind of generic. The second act is when it actually becomes a lot of fun and actually feels like an Edgar Wright movie. The third act lost me completely because there's so much going on, so much stuff that's thrown in there, and it kind of just feels like there was no point to it. I just felt like this movie just completely lost its way, even though there are some performances that are good, like Glenn Powell, Josh Brolin, Michael Cera, Coleman Domingo. A lot of people in this movie are good. It's just the movie is just way too all over the place, and it doesn't really feel like it's one singular vision. I remember watching it in the theater and thinking, this is kind of a good time. But the more I thought of it afterwards, the more I just disliked it. And I said Last Night in Soho was my least favorite Edgar Wright movie. Well, now Running Man is my least favorite Edgar Wright movie. The movie doesn't become fun until, again, the movie doesn't become fun until the third act. It's like that scene in Hook where it's like, oh, there you are, Peter. Instead, it's like, oh, there you are, Edgar Wright. And that's how I felt about this movie. It's like, very rarely do we get to see Edgar Wright in this movie. And it's just such a waste of talent. It's like, I know he's a better director than this, and I just felt like it was just not really a good use of his time and talent. And I just felt like this movie could have been something more than what it actually was. So, those were my picks for the biggest disappointments of 2025. What were some of the biggest disappointments to you? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.